Hello, and welcome to week 6 discussion board post. This week we were talking about the way that our context affects the way that we interpret scripture. And for me, the way that I think my context affects the way that I interpret scripture is that I come from a generation, I come from a culture that is taught to be very self-centric. And what I mean by that is from a very young age, we are taught to believe that we are special and that we are unique and we are like little snowflakes in God's eyes, sort of thing. And this like beloved child of God. And it's not even just in the Christian circles, but even in the secular world at large. We have it's really a generation of parenting that has decided to teach their kids that they are the center of the universe. And so when you have that generation then going to read the Bible, they naturally think that the Bible is all about them. So you have people that read the Bible and they skim through and they look for passages of scripture that apply to them immediately, right now. And what happens when you do that is you end up with a Christian lifestyle that's very selective and rejects much of the counsel of God because it doesn't seem to apply to me here and now. So it's just looked over. The other thing that happens, and it's probably even worse, is that when you make yourself the center of God's narrative, you're pushing out the true main character, which is Jesus Christ. And God's entire story is about how he was relating to his people, how he's interacting with his people, and the ultimate way that he interacts with them is by sending his son to save them from themselves and to save them from their sin, and by sending him as a sacrifice. He is the main character. So when you put yourself at center stage, you're pushing him to the side. And that's not Christian living at all. So I think that the way I try to fight against that, the way that I try to make sure that my context and my culture isn't affecting the way that I interpret scripture is, one, I regularly practice humility in the sense that I remind myself that I'm not the center of the universe, sorry to say, and that Christ is the center of my life and the world around me. So constantly keeping it in perspective and recognizing the cultural currents that push you towards construing the scriptures is the first step. The next step is not just to recognize, but to constantly remind yourself and understand that that is a weakness that you have when reading the scriptures, and to be aware of it and to look for the opposites. So instead of reading myself into the scriptures, I need to read myself out of the scriptures, understand first the context, understand first the people who are in the story, the actual people that are listed there, the audience that was originally written towards. Those are the first steps. The last step I can do is, once I've gone through all that, then I can try to understand, okay, how can this possibly apply to me today? And oftentimes you'll find that there are a lot of applications. They weren't just necessarily the ones that you thought you would have found from the beginning. So anyway, thanks for listening, guys. And I look forward to the discussion to follow. Take care.